Hello, welcome to Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror. Today we're going to talk about bears. The whole episode is going to be teddy bears. This is my childhood teddy bear, and we're going to spend the next hour just talking about teddy bears. Let's see here. Where's a teddy bear? Then we can here we go. There's a teddy bear. Well, that's not actually a teddy bear, is it? No. That's a little more ferocious than a teddy bear. That is a grizzly bear. A monster grizzly bear. That is an Imperial Toys official movie Grizzly. And much like that's my childhood teddy bear, this is my childhood Grizzly. So that is the very same one I had in childhood. That is my childhood toy. And I would put Adventure People in his mouth. His head is just the right size to chomp down on an Adventure People person's head. So the Adventure People would be about that tall compared to him, and so it's just the right size. He would eat them. So no, we're not going to talk about teddy bears. We're going to talk about grizzly bears. I have notes. You know it's going to be an exciting episode when I get the notebook out. Okay. So this is an official licensed jiggler, a rubber jiggler, made by Imperial Toys in 1976, and this is based on the movie Grizzly. It's a 1976 Jaws ripoff. Stars Christopher George, Andrew Pine, Joan McCall, directed by William Girdler. It was shot in Georgia for just $750,000. And it grossed $39 million. They shot it for $750,000 and it grossed $39 million. That's a lot of money. And it held the record for the highest grossing independent film until 2 years later when Halloween knocked it out of the top spot. The movie is about an 18-foot tall prehistoric grizzly that is terrorizing a national park. And I don't think they ever say which park. I think they leave that up to your imagination. So that is the movie. And yes, I saw the movie as a kid, but I didn't see it at the theater. I saw the commercials and the ads and everything, but I didn't see the movie at the theater. I saw it when it was broadcast on television, I guess a couple years later. And of course it was edited. It was on broadcast television. One of the networks showed it on prime time. And it was edited. But, you know, since then I've seen it unedited, and there's not a whole lot that needs to be cut. It's not like an Italian gore fest. It's, you know, not a Fulci film or anything like that. It's got some violence, but I think as a kid I got the idea seeing it on TV. I got the experience. And since then I've seen it several times. I've got not the most recent Blu-ray. I've got the Code Red Blu-ray. I don't have the Severin Blu-ray. But, the Code Red one was pretty good. And I think I have a DVD as well. So I've seen the movie several times. And it's not bad. It's not as good as Piranha, which is probably the best Jaws ripoff. But it's not bad. It's not as good as Prophecy, which is another monster bear movie. When was Prophecy released? 78 or 79? Something like that. Now, I love Prophecy. That's a great monster movie. Very scary. And I wish Imperial had made a rubber Prophecy bear. They could have taken the same sculpt and sculpted over it, made some adjustments and turned this into a Prophecy bear. As a kid, I would have loved. I saw Prophecy not at the theater. I vividly remember it being at the theater, but I did not see it at the theater. I saw it again on broadcast television, and all the kids were talking about it the next day. But that's Prophecy. This is Grizzly. And, it's a decent little harmless horror film. Just a fun little drive-in exploitation Jaws ripoff about a bear. But anyway, this is the jiggler. There wasn't a lot of... He stands. There wasn't a lot of merchandise for Grizzly, but there was some. Obviously, there was this bear. Collegeville made a Halloween costume, licensed Halloween costume based on Grizzly. And it's very rare, as are all of those obscure Collegeville movie costumes. They made a lot of weird costumes, the most famous being the Incredible Melting Man. But they did Grizzly and Nightwing and Krull, weird stuff like that. I think they did a Dragon Slayer one. All kinds of strange costumes. And Grizzly was one of them. And it's very, very rare. It never comes up for sale. And at this point, the next time one does appear on eBay, I'm sure it'll just go through the roof. I'd like to have it. I'd like to have that Collegeville costume. I mean, I'm sure if I know about it, I'll be one of the bidders. I'll probably lose, but I'd like to have it. So there was a little bit of merchandising. But the coolest one, by far, of course, was this jiggler. This scary-looking jiggler. And my jiggler episodes are always among the least popular of my videos, but I keep making them. I like jigglers, I like rubber jigglers, and I really want to explore them on this channel. It's interesting. We're going to get into this. This is going to, you're thinking, how much can he say about one little jiggler? You're going to be surprised. Look at the markings on this, because that's part of what we're going to talk about. This has an Imperial Toys, the famous crown. When I was a kid, that meant fun. When you saw a toy with that crown on it, that meant you're going to have a good time with that toy. The Imperial Toys crown logo. It says copyright 1973. Made in Hong Kong. Copyright 1973. And that's going to be interesting in a few minutes when we start looking at some other things. So the one I had in childhood has that 1973 copyright. Let's talk a little bit about Imperial Toys. Back to my notes. I was saying my jiggler episodes are among my least watched on this channel, but I keep making them because I like jigglers and I want more jiggler content because I like it, and somebody's watching. Someone out there wants to see a jiggler episode, I hope. But I think this is the last one. No, I don't think it is. I think there'll be one more jiggler episode this season, probably. But anyway, Imperial Toys. And I did an episode about the Imperial Universal monsters from the 1980s. So go back and look at that one, and I went into some detail about the company. But to recap, it was founded in 1969 by Fred Court. He was a Holocaust survivor. He immigrated to the United States after World War II, and he started this toy company because he wanted to bring children the joy that he was denied as a child during the Holocaust. He had obviously an unhappy childhood during the Holocaust, as you would expect, and that sort of sensitized him to wanting to give other kids the childhood he didn't have. Imperial specialized in rack toys. I think everything they made was a rack toy. I don't think they ever got into higher end toys. They made a lot of outdoor toys, a lot of bubble-oriented toys, like blowing bubbles. And they did some licensed stuff early on, like this jiggler, but mostly it was unlicensed in their early years. But in their later years, they got into licensing very heavily. So to the present day, they're much more into licensing, like 80s, 90s, and then especially 21st century, they got heavily into licensing. But in their early days, most of the stuff was unlicensed, generic rack toys. I knew them as a kid for their jigglers. And I think most kids that I knew, if they knew anything about Imperial, it was this kind of stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, Imperial equals jigglers. That's when I think of Imperial Toys, I think of this kind of stuff. Whether it's the more soft, oily rubber like this, or the later, more rigid PVC kind of dinosaurs and animals they did later on. I think of jigglers and plastic dinosaurs and zoo animals. That's what Imperial means to me. And as a kid, I had all those rubber animals, and I still, as a collector now, I have a lot of my childhood ones, but I also have mint-tagged examples of most of their zoo animals. And this began as a zoo animal. So let's talk about that. We've talked about the movie. We've established that. We've established this is a licensed grizzly, and this is my childhood one. And he stands. There you go. Alright, so let's talk about the origins of that thing. Where did it come from? Let's see here. Alright, so this is the origin of that grizzly. This is a polar bear. And he has a leash. It's like kind of a leathery material, like a leatherette. And he has his tag. It's seen better days, but he has it. And because this one's a little fragile with that tag, let's set him down. Get an untagged one that we can handle a little more carelessly. Okay, here we go. Here's an untagged one that I don't have to be quite so careful about it. So you can see there, it's the same toy. It's the same toy. He's cute. He's very soft. He is jiggly. He's a very soft, squishy, kind of a rubbery grizzly. Well, he's not a grizzly. He's a polar bear. So that's how it originated. It began as this polar bear. As I said, Imperial made all these zoo animals. There's Billy down there. That's why I'm putting things away. Jumps up here. So Imperial made a bunch of zoo animals. Kangaroos, turtles, alligators, snakes, you name it. A bunch of zoo creatures, wildlife creatures. And this polar bear was among them. So let's see what kind of markings this polar bear has. Well, it's different. Okay, so it says 1973 on the polar bear, but it's oriented differently. On the grizzly, it was right side up like that. On this one, it's oriented like this. So they did change it, even though it's the same 1973 copyright. So maybe not the most interesting news to you, but it'll be a little more important in a second. Now, where was this? I'll just set him over here. Okay. Let me go back to this tagged one and see if I can carefully inspect this tag and see if there's anything interesting to see there. Another friend for your Imperial. Wonder Zoo, $1.29. Yeah, it doesn't say anything else. And he has a little handle. Here we go. Keep him on a leash. That's cute. The Killer Grizzly does not have that leash. And the movie Grizzly, the alternate title for it was Killer Grizzly. Alright, so let's bring out some other things here. Okay. Here's a couple more of these beautiful grizzlies. Okay. I'm saying okay a lot. No two of these are exactly alike. There's a tagged one. You can see his paint is a little better. Not quite as much wear as the one from my childhood. Here's the tag. The tag has a bit of wear on it. Here comes Billy. Hi, Billy. Hey, sweetie. No, don't eat my grizzlies. There's Billy right there. Let's see what's on the other side of the tag. There's the Imperial information. What is the number on this thing? Okay, so this is copyright 1976. Number 1414 is a model number. Now look at the golden string on this. These never had a string that attached to the top of their heads like most jigglers. They only had these strings wrapped around their necks like this. So you couldn't really dangle them from the string. Well, most jigglers have a string that's attached to the top of their head and you can dangle them from the string, but not these. They never had that. Let's see what the bottom says here. So this one says 1973, and it's oriented this way, as opposed to my childhood one, which is oriented that way. So the markings are different. Does this one stand up? The same height. Now let's look at this one. This, yeah, I guess they're the same. And these, as you would expect, being mintier, they're a little softer. They seem a little more flexible. This, which is my childhood one, which was thoroughly played with in all kinds of environments, it's a little stiffer. How about this one? What's the orientation there? Okay, so that one is also 1973. Same markings. It's like that. Here's this one, which has a much more mangled tag, but it does have a tag. And again, it has that golden elastic, kind of a metallic golden elastic. Here are these guys. I've had these two for a long time, and I used to have a couple more. I guess I bought 4 of them at the same time, tagged ones, and I didn't pay much for them. I can just feel like the flexibility of these legs. They're very soft, very flexible. Not all of these Grizzlies are like that. Some are more flexible than others. I better just leave it like that. Well, I'm going to destroy this thing. Yeah, I hate to have that tag sticking out. There it is. That's good. It's like facing, the back is facing forward. Let's put this back here. Okay. So, there we go. All right. Put you back there. Now, all right, let's bring this one out. Okay, there we go. This is one I bought recently, and this is a case fresh Grizzly. Again, he has a, there we go, he has the tag. And this came, well, I'll talk about that in a minute, but this is factory fresh. And now look at the cord. It's not as golden. It's more yellow than gold. I mean, it's gold, but it has a less metallic look, and it's longer. There's a lot more of it. I shouldn't have put those away. Yeah, let's get one back out. We'll need to compare them. Yeah. I don't know if you can tell on camera. To the naked eye, it's obvious that this elastic is different. I think you can tell. Yeah, you can tell. And this one has much more elastic. The tag appears to be the same. Yeah, 1414 model number. Now let's look at the bottom. I guess that says, it's hard to read, I guess that's 1973, Hong Kong. And this one has the same orientation as my childhood one. It's like this, which is like my childhood one. So this other one, the orientation is like that on the other one. The orientation of the markings is like facing, like the top is facing this way, whereas this one, the top is facing this way. So the markings are not the same. This feels noticeably more rigid. This is not as oily. This is much softer and more oily. The one that I bought years ago with the more metallic elastic. The one that I bought recently, it's much stiffer. You can tell when you try to squeeze the legs that they don't squeeze as easily. Same height, same toy. Let's see here. And you can tell that because the material that this one's made of is slightly different. It's a little more rigid than this one. The details stand out more on this one than they do on the other one. And the mouth seems to be open wider on this one. Not because the sculpt is different, it's the same sculpt, it's just the material that it's made of. I don't know if you can see this, but we'll try and... Yeah, I don't know if that really comes across. Yeah, I don't think it does, but... And the hair on top of the head stands out more on the stiffer one. So this one feels stiffer. Now, my childhood one also feels stiffer and has the same orientation like that instead of like that. So my childhood one is more like the one I bought recently. Now the one I bought recently came from Italy. He's not going to stand up. There we go. The ones I bought years ago, I don't know, some guy on eBay had them a long time ago, in the early 2000s, I guess. But the one I bought recently came from Italy. So this one came from Italy. And it seems to be more like my childhood one. It's got the markings facing, the orientation being horizontal instead of vertical, and it's stiffer. It's made of a stiffer PVC, like my childhood one. So this one is, my childhood one seems to originate from this run. I don't know if this was a earlier run or a later run, but I think these are cousins, whereas the other two were from a different batch. Now this Italian one, as I said, the elastic is different. The orientation of the markings is different. The material that it's made of is different. Let's talk about the Italian one. Let's sit over there for a second, so I'm not rubbing all the paint off as I talk. Okay, so these Grizzlies. For a long time, they were very rare, very obscure toys, very sought after by people who knew what they were. And they could fetch, I don't know, $250, $350, pretty hefty price. And they can still go for that. But they were very hard to find. You could search for years and never find one. And then a few months ago, they started appearing in Italy. Individual bears, like that one with tags, and also counter display boxes. They were sold, like, when I bought mine as a kid, they were sold in counter display boxes. They came 12 bears to a box. And the box had the movie poster artwork on it. And the box is really cool. The counter display box itself is a really cool item. And I'd love to have one. I doubt that I will, just because of the price, but that'd be something I would definitely like to have in my collection. And I remember those boxes in stores from my childhood. And you never saw the counter display box for sale, ever. And you rarely saw tagged bears. Like I said, years might pass without seeing a tagged bear for sale. And then last year, all of a sudden, the tagged bears started showing up on eBay. And then the counter display boxes started to show up. And they were all from Italy. And there wasn't a lot of information. No one really knew what was going on. But over the last few months, about a half dozen boxes, counter display boxes, have surfaced, and a number of individual bears, several individual bears, and they're sold by different people. It's not just the same person that has all of these. Different people have them, but they all originate from Italy. So there was some kind of warehouse find or something. There was some kind of a find of old store stock in Italy of these Imperial Grizzlies, of all the places for something like that to show up. But that's where it surfaced. Somehow, some way, there must have been a case or two of these Imperial Grizzlies that surfaced in Italy, maybe in a warehouse, maybe in an old store that closed, maybe, who knows. And so these things are available. Now the counter display boxes, the prices are all over the place. There was one that sold for less than $500, just under, I think it was $497, something like that, just under $500, a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, I missed that. I wish I'd seen that. Even though I had it as a saved search. I think it was a buy it now. And there's one up right now for $2,300. And then there was one that sold for $1,000 or just over $1,000 several weeks ago. But I don't think it had all the bears in it. I think it only had half the bears in it. And there have been some offered for sale between $1,000 and $2,000. So that $500 one was a bargain. So their prices are all, it could be $500 or $2,500. Just there's no telling. And then the individual bears, the one I just showed you, this one that I got from Italy, I paid $40, $40 for that. I know that one within the last several weeks, one sold for $250. And as of this recording, the seller that I bought that bear from, he still has more bears on eBay for a comparable price. So if you want one, I would suggest getting on eBay and buying them while you can. Because people are still spending $250 on one of those bears. So the prices are all over. You could spend $40 or $50, or you could spend $250 for one of those bears right now. Like I said, one sold for $250, and there's another one available now for $250. So if you want to spend $250, you can do that, or you can spend $40. I guess that depends what how you're feeling. Maybe you feel like spending $250. I don't know. So the prices are just all over the place right now. I bought that bear. I will probably buy another bear from that seller if I can get it for the same price. I'm not going to buy him out. I don't need, unless I had a box to put them in, I don't need a bunch of bears. I've already got 3 tagged ones. I think I'm going to get one more. That's fine. I think I got 4 tagged ones and my childhood one. How many do I need? That's plenty. Unless I had a box, then I'd want a dozen. I'd want a full box, but I don't have a box. And I doubt that I'm going to be able to get a box unless another cheap one. Cheap, $500 is nothing to sneeze at, but compared to what they can go for. If another one like that were to turn up, okay, for that price, yeah, if I saw it in time, I would get it. But if it's 1,000 or more, yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that. And it's too bad because I like that box a lot. I like that toy a lot. It's a beloved childhood toy, a beloved childhood memory, and that box is part of the memory. But I wanted to. The reason I'm doing this episode right now is the timing of it is partly because of this Italian find and the fact that they're this very rare, sought-after toy is suddenly available. There's a window of opportunity where you can get these things. But also, because of this goofy movie, Cocaine Bear, I thought there was some synchronistic timing to put this video out when this Cocaine Bear is in theaters. So there's this, what appears to be a very goofy, stupid action horror movie, Cocaine Bear, about a grizzly that finds cocaine like a drug dealer's cocaine stash in the woods and eats it and goes crazy and goes on a rampage, and apparently from the trailer turns bionic or turns into some kind of super bear and can do amazing feats that no normal bear can do, and just goes around killing people. So that made me think of the grand tradition of exploitation bears, horror movie bears, like the mutant bear in Annihilation, and a number of other crazy bears over the years, including Prophecy and Grizzly. And Grizzly 2, that's a crazy movie, Grizzly 2, the sequel in name only to Grizzly. And that's a whole other story. That's a film that took decades to complete. I've seen it. It's a train wreck. But that you could do a whole video about Grizzly 2. That's one of those weird movies like Troll 2, or it's one of those like worst movies ever made kind of catastrophes that are so bad they're notorious. But the original Grizzly is a decent drive-in exploitation movie. It's a decent film. But this Cocaine Bear, it's based on a true story, not really, but it's inspired by a true story. And that's part of the reason I don't think I'm going to see it. It looks stupid, for one thing. It doesn't look like something I'm going to have fun watching. But also, the true story that it's inspired by is a sad story. I think the cocaine, I think it came from a drug dealer that was parachuting or something. I think it came from above. And then, like drug dealer parachuted out of a plane or something like that. And this cocaine ended up in the woods, and this poor bear ate it, but he didn't turn into Super Bear. He didn't go on a rampage. He just got sick and he died. I'm sure he died a very miserable death in the forest. And it's just sad. I heard that story, the story that inspired Cocaine Bear, and it just bummed me out. I just thought of this poor bear eating this stuff. I guess he thought he found something yummy in the woods, and he ate it. And I can just imagine him being in pain, being sick in his stomach, wondering, not realizing what's happening to him, and just curling up and just dying alone in the woods. It's very sad. It just makes me sad. So I don't feel like when I hear that story of what really happened, I'm not inspired to think of some exciting, fun movie about a bear that eats cocaine and goes cuckoo and does crazy things. I hear that story and I'm just bummed out. It's just sad. It's a sad story. A poor bear. That poor bear. I just think of the poor bear dying. So I don't know. I see the trailers for the Cocaine Bear and I'm just thinking, the real bear died. It's not fun for me. It just seems kind of sad. So that's the difference between a successful person, like whoever's producing this Cocaine Bear, and an unsuccessful person, like the one sitting here. The successful person hears that story about the bear and goes, wow, that could be a cool movie about this bear that gets superpowers and goes rampaging around killing people, and then that person makes millions of dollars. And the unsuccessful person hears that story and goes, oh, poor bear, how sad. That poor old bear. I'm so sad now. What a bummer. So that's the difference between the millionaire and me. Anyway, so that was the timing of why I thought, hey, maybe it's time to do this Grizzly episode. But also because there was this find in Italy, and I don't know how long that's going to last. And it's a strange phenomenon when these rare things turn up, when there's a warehouse find of something rare. It reminds me of the UK Lincoln Monsters, or the Tomland Glow Monsters, or the Skull Force versions of the Underworld Warriors, other things like that over the years, where something that's very rare and obscure and ordinarily goes for a lot of money, suddenly they start turning up. And it's never in the United States, it's always in another country. And there's this period of confusion where no one knows what's going on. People wonder, like, are these genuine? Are they fake? Where are these coming from? How come all of a sudden this rare toy that you never see for sale, suddenly they seem like they're readily available? What's happening? There's never any information, there's never any communication, there's never any straight answers, there's always contradictory information and just a question mark over everything. And by the time the collecting community finally gets it all sorted out, the supply is gone. And there's always also, for a time, there's these weird prices where the same toys are going very cheap and very high at the same time. It's almost like, pick your price. Do you want to pay a lot or do you want to pay a little? It's up to you. And that just contributes to the confusion where no one really knows what's going on until the smoke and the dust settles after the fact, and by then it's too late. And it's always a risk to to get in on these things, because during the time when there is that window of opportunity, when these things are available, you just don't know what's going on. So let's say there's a toy that would normally sell for thousands of dollars, and you could get it for 500 or 1,000 instead of thousands. Well, you don't know if you plunk down that money, you don't know if there's a couple more, or 10 more, or 100 more, or 500, or 1,000 more, or a whole warehouse full of them. You just don't know. So it's hard to roll that dice and put down that money. Now, when it's cheap, like $40, okay. But it's an interesting phenomenon when these finds happen, these rare things turn up, and it always seems to follow a similar pattern. It's never in the United States, and it's always confusion. No one knows what's going on, and there's different stories and different information coming from different places where you're not sure who to believe or who really knows what they're talking about, and people aren't sure if they're real or not. And like these grizzlies, there were people at first thinking that these were not real, and I'll get into that next. I mentioned the Severin Blu-ray. So Severin put out a reproduction of that Imperial Grizzly last year. And here's a picture from my friend Rod Whitenack. He took this picture of his Severin Grizzly. Now what you're looking at there is not the Imperial Grizzly. It is a reproduction produced by Severin, the video company that puts out the Blu-rays. They put out this reproduction Grizzly to go along with the movie Grizzly Blu-ray that they released, and they had different deluxe packages. Like they had a picnic basket that you could buy that had the Grizzly Blu-ray, and it had what was it, Day of the Animals or something like that, another Blu-ray, and then like a cup and a t-shirt and other stuff, and it had this Grizzly figurine in there. Now this figurine is 5.5 inches tall. The original Imperial Grizzly is 6 inches tall, so they're not the same size. The Severin Grizzly is rigid, it's stiff, much more so than any of the rubber Imperial Grizzlies. The Severin Grizzly is not jiggly or soft at all. It's a hard, stiff PVC figurine. And if you put them side by side, it's obviously different. The details stand out because of the rigid material. It doesn't look the same. So yeah, you can tell the Severin one is not the original. But because that exists, when the Italian ones came out, people were thinking maybe these are the Severin Grizzlies. Or maybe whoever produced that Severin Grizzly, maybe they just kept turning them out, and that's what we're seeing now coming out of Italy. So there was confusion like that originally. People were not sure if these were vintage or not. And I wasn't sure until I bought one what I was going to get. Particularly because of the elastic being different. That was kind of a red flag. But now that I've got it, I can see, yeah, this is an Italian Grizzly, and it is the real thing. So it would be if you want one, this is the time to get one from Italy while they last. I don't know if there's thousands of them or dozens of them. I don't know. I don't know how long that supply will last. Are you going to come up here, Billy? There's Billy. My Billy. Here's my sweetie. Life is better with Billy in it. Yes. Yep, that's true. Okay, well, time to go. Hope you enjoyed this long, drawn-out episode about a single rubber bear. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Until next time, the one who dies with the most toys is dead.